Okay, so for me, this is my favourite video as a historian, but also for students of history at Lodge Park Academy, this is the most important video because central to GCSE, Key Stage 3, basically at A-level, any kind of history that you do, you need to be able to analyse sources. And I've made up a way that I find really useful to analyse sources. Excuse me. A lot of you will have seen these in your lessons. If you're sat there not sure what your teacher's talking about, or if you want to revisit the idea, then this video is perfect for you. I've got examples from lots of different topics, so this video is suitable for all years. Okay, so I always refer to PURP in my lesson, so if I teach you, you'll have heard me say it a lot, your other teachers might use it as well. Now, what does that actually stand for? PURP stands for provenance, usefulness, reliability, and purpose. So by provenance, now those people who I teach will know that one of the things I say very often is that half of history is knowing what happened in the past, the other half is knowing which posh words to use. And provenance is one of those examples of a really posh word that means something very, very simple. And so the provenance of the source is what it actually is. So if you're looking at a cartoon picture, it's a cartoon. If it's a record from a court trial or something like that, then it's going to be a court record. Or if you're going really far back in history, it might be a physical artifact. So a Viking helmet would be one example. Usefulness is pretty simple. So is the source useful? Little hint, it usually is. But we have to think about it in the right context. So how useful is this information for a historian? What would a historian use this source as an example of, I suppose is the best way to describe it. Reliability is about, do you trust it? Now, the way to decide whether something's reliable or not as a historian is by reading around the subject, knowing your topic really well, and then deciding whether the source that you're looking at fits in to what you already know. So whether it goes against your own knowledge or not. Now, one thing that you have to be really aware of is that just as easy as it is today, people in the past could lie. And so the source that you're looking at doesn't necessarily tell you the truth. And so if it's a source that you know from your own knowledge is lying, why is the person who made it, why is the author lying? Just be really careful with this one. Just because it's unreliable doesn't mean it's not useful. Just because something doesn't tell the truth doesn't mean we can't use it as historians. Be really careful with that one. And then lastly, it's purpose. Now, funnily enough, all the sources that you look at GCSE history weren't made so that GCSE students could revise them. They were made for a reason at the time. So what was that reason? So we're going to have a look at a few examples of sources, and we need to know what they were made for at the time and why. Okay, so here's my first source, perfect for somebody who has just finished their Year 8 topic on slavery. And as you can see, the source is this picture in the middle, this one here, and it's a pair of handcuffs. And so we're looking at an artifact, which means an object. I've decided that these cuffs are dated back to 1805, so I know that it's when slavery's still part of what's happening, and so they're handcuffs. Now, the provenance is probably the easiest bit because you're basically just describing the source, and as you'll see in the next couple of examples, the provenance is usually written underneath the source in a caption, so it sounds like it's the hardest, but actually it's not. Usefulness. I think a historian would use this for two reasons. I think it is useful for explaining how people were held captive, and also I think it's useful for a historian who's describing how terrible the conditions were for slaves. Now, is this reliable? Well, I've decided yes, it is. It's a trustworthy source as it fits into my own knowledge. Now, you can see that I've put another picture at the bottom here. Now, this is a picture of a slave ship, and you can see this was made as part of the design of a slave ship, so this was a source made by slave owners. And I can see in this picture, isn't it awful? I can see loads of people tied, and if you zoom really closely in, their hands are handcuffed. And so is this first source, the handcuffs, reliable? Yes, because I know from my own knowledge that when slaves were transported from Africa to America, they were handcuffed on ships. And then finally, it's purpose. The purpose of handcuffs is obviously to keep people locked up and unable to escape. So if you are in year 11 currently, or if you are in 10.4 HI1, so you've already done your suffragette topic, I want you to pause the video and have a go at this source yourself. Pause the video, grab a piece of paper, and try and have a look at the provenance, usefulness, reliability and purpose of this source. And then I will show you what I've put, and you can compare your answers to mine. Okay, so these are the answers that I got for the source that you've just looked at. Now, I've not bothered writing the provenance out because, as I said, the provenance is usually at the bottom of the source. So the provenance of this source is that it's a banner used by the Hammersmith branch of the WSPU, the Women's Social and Political Union. That's its provenance. Usefulness, it shows, in my opinion, a couple of really important things. I'm going to start from the bottom here. So it shows deeds, not words, which was the ideology of the WSPU and also a slogan that they used constantly. And what that means is that rather than handing out leaflets and having very nice speeches and doing all of this that hadn't been effective for so many years as part of the women's suffrage movement, they were going to go and do something about it. So that's a really important message from this source, and it's been written in huge letters, so we know that it's very important. And also, I think it's really important that we pay attention to this idea of the source being from Hammersmith. And so this isn't just a London-based organisation. This isn't a small group of women. As we can see from this source, there were women from all over the UK who campaigned for the WSPU, and I think that's really important. Reliability. Now, I know from my own knowledge, and I've made a really big fuss about that here, always say I know from my own knowledge that. So I know that the suffragettes used marches and mass protests to get support from the public and also to raise awareness for the women's suffrage cause. And also another thing that I've added on here is that I know it's a suffragette poster, even though it doesn't actually say so anywhere on the banner itself, because of its colours. It's red, violet and green, which were the suffragette colours. So that's how I know I can trust this to be a suffragette source. So there's my reliability done. And then finally, its purpose. Now, I think that this source is, firstly, it's fascinating, but it has a couple of uses. So this source was used as a banner. It could be used locally, but most importantly, I think it would be taken to mass protests or demonstrations in London to show Parliament and all the men in power who would be residing in Westminster that actually it wasn't a small group of women who were asking for suffrage. It was women from all over the UK, and so they really should be listened to, which is why this source is so important. So this source is designed for my current year 8s because they will have seen this source before. But if you're a year 11 who's watching this video and is looking to do A-level history, or if you're a year 12 who's planning ahead for year 13, I would say that this source is important for you to have a go at, because we do look at civil rights in America starting from the end of slavery. So this would be a useful source for you to have a look at. This source is for my current year 10s and 11s. Year 10s, you'll recognise this to be your last AP4 assessment. Year 11s, I really strongly recommend that you have a look at a source and sources like this. So pause the video and have a go at this one. And again, this is for current year 11 and 10.4 HI1 who have already done their suffragette topic. So pause the video here and have a quick look at this source. Okay, this source is just for year 11 because this is your Cold War topic which you've studied. The cartoon's from 1962, and just to give you a bit of a clue, the people that you're looking at here, one of them is JFK. Just want to give you a bit of a clue there to start you off. So pause the video. If you want credits for your hard work on these PURP analysis of sources, then write down your notes for each of the sources that you've looked at, and come and see me, and I'll have a look at I'll mark them for you so that you know how well you're getting on, and also pop some credits on Sims for you. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for listening to this video, and hopefully you've done some source analysis as you've been going along. This is the most important thing. If you can do this, then for GCSE, if you can do a PURP analysis on each of the sources, your British depth study paper will be so much easier because you'll know where to start with your answer. And the same for aspects of international relations. You do have a number of sources questions on there as well for GCSE, so it is really, really useful. My last thing to finish on is an exam tip. With your British depth study, I wouldn't start writing my answers straight away because there are so many sources for you to go and have a look at, and you need to use all of the sources for your 16-mark question at the end. I would spend the first 5-10 minutes of my exam looking through the booklet and annotating each of the sources, just using PURP really quickly, so that I've got an idea of what my questions are going to be about and what the message of each of the sources is. If you have any more questions about this, then you can come to a revision session on Thursday mornings at 8 o'clock with the Breakfast Club revision, or you can come to Thursday after school revision as well. If you're Mrs. Croft's classes, then there is revision Monday night after school.